Okay, so no script for the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an emotional 10 years, back and forth. I love Star Citizen. I am more towards the happy. What I saw was really good. What we were shown is exactly what I would like to see, a level of progress in a year. If we can get to that state and we can get Star Citizen stable and a clean release of Pyro and a clean release of Squadron 42, man. Anyways, what I have for you is what I did last year. I took all of the breakdowns for the entire panel, for the entire show, and I put them back to back into one long playlist. What I'm hoping you're going to do with this is the kind of thing that you can start on the way home from work and just let the whole thing play. This is a great way to get fully caught up to date with everything that happened, and 2023 was a good show. I hope you enjoy, and I thank you for the support. This was the first panel, the opening keynote, Shaping the Verse, the Future of Star Engine. We began with a bunch of backers standing on chairs, T-posing. That was really fun for like 10 seconds, and then Chris arrived. There was a flashy intro and the crowd went nuts. Chris said that it was great to see everyone in person after 4 years. I noticed things. Some people were critical of Chris's suit, but I actually like a hand-tailored suit. Chris said that the next week they wanted to push Pyro Playhouse out to the backers, but they had over 100 PCs waiting in the lobby for people who were there in person. They could literally try it out. Chris noted that the Squadron Progress Tracker was drying up, but he said that that could be seen as a good thing because we would be seeing what that meant over the next 2 days. Chris said that this 2-day show would demonstrate what was coming, but also why we shouldn't be concerned that the tech will be obsolete by the time the game goes live. He then spooled up a video that would completely demonstrate the complexity of the entire progress. I'll tell you, I'm a sucker for a great demo video. I'm going to probably cover the video by itself because it was basically a laundry list of all of the supporting tech and all of the achievements that have been made up to and including the near future for 10 years. All of it looked lovely, as you would expect. Nobody has ever accused Star Citizen of being an ugly game. Closer to the end of the demo, we had some space cows, a larger outpost, and then the view pulled out from the surface to reveal updated cloud tech and the gas tech. We were shot over to Yela, fully rendered asteroid fields. Again, humbling and impressive to see everything presented like this at once. We saw space whales. We were shot into Pyro. We saw tattoo tech on some NPCs. My thoughts at this point was, am I looking at stuff that's coming out in the next patch? Or is some of this like super far off and just being shown for the sake of it? We were then transported from planet to planet in the Pyro system, and then Chris took control of the stage again. Chris said that the video was a teaser for the next 2 years. He said that all of the things that were being shown on the demo would be explained in better detail. Chris then highlighted Turbulent and its CEO, Benoit. Ben was on deck, and he expressed how happy he was to be there live. The fidelity and immersion seamlessly is the core of the accomplishments. He acknowledged that persistence is a difficult piece that's being added. The clips that we would see would be examples of the most current versions of the tech. Marco, VP of Tech, he wanted to tell us about Star Engine. Seamlessly streaming assets at the scale is a huge challenge. He said that all of this becomes even harder by making the game an MMO with MMO levels of players. He spoke about some of the capabilities of the engine. It all sounded very impressive. Clouds, fog, and weather are new. They have new God Ray tech, which is not faked. The rays are rendered, and this plays off the ground and the fog system. All of this functions together. Investing time in the tech results in an engine that can render things with realism not seen elsewhere. What was shown was truly impressive, and I reminded myself that I was only watching a 1080 stream. I can't wait to see all of this rendered in engine, and Marco said that patch 3.22 would have all of the upgrades that were shown on screen. Mike and Ali were next with the dynamic fire within Star Engine. Fire is important for gameplay as it's a driving threat. Fire can come from many sources, and of course, they're modeling many ways to extinguish it. All surfaces and structures that are supporting those surfaces have a flammability value. This includes what the material is and how flammable it is. All of this is being calculated in real time, constantly. Heat, smoke, radiation, gases are simulated. Venting the room will remove the fire, but if the heat is still very high, when the atmosphere is restored, the system will automatically reignite the fire because that's what would happen. The sim is the backend that drives the visuals. There are layers such as smoke, glow, flame, light, spark, and fog. The demo was fun as the extinguisher did snuff the flame, but because it did nothing to reduce the temperature, the fire did exactly what they said it would, and it simply returned. Will was on deck next to talk about water. Old water tech was replaced with forward shading, which preserves the transparency of the water. Light works better, and they can add foam and bubbles. I'm not doing it justice. Items are refracted and reflected in real time. The headlight of your ship will enter and react properly with the water. View distance and fog combine into a new challenge that they say that they have addressed. The demo, once again, was great. Water surface simulation with physics is the next challenge. We got to see what feet in puddles look like. We saw bullets hitting a lake. Planet-sized water is a tricky thing. Will said that they're able to optimize things to keep the frames high and the water impact load low. Will had another video demonstrating test objects being moved through the water, a big sphere. You could see the foam, ripples, and waves influence each other and influence the body of water. They had a Gladius come in hot over the water and hover over the lake, and as the ship moved over the surface, the wake was visible. Blood, sweat, and tears was the next part. The actor feature improvements will add these to any characters, so that could be NPC or a player as needed. They also worked on a new scope shader that properly distorts as you're approaching the weapon. They're simulating eye relief, and as a guy who spent many years using scopes, this effect doesn't look like it fakes anything at all, and it's not limited to the person using the scope. A bystander will see the scope rendered properly. They spoke about improvements using HDR. Actual values are mapped in, and this is tuned to the hardware that you provide the game. If you have an HDR monitor, you'll be able to exploit all this. DLSS2 and FSR2 are upscaling techniques that are being leveraged to get the most out of your modern GPUs. They're working to add TSR, which is a next-generation anti-aliasing method. These were said to result in as much as a doubling of frames if the CPU is able to match the GPU. They're driven to make the most using less to maximize our performance with minimal compromise on visual fidelity. Real-time weather sim is still the plan. The sun heats the surface, the heat changes the wind does whatever the wind does on the surface, and then we get weather. They said that it's very early days, and we're going to see more on this in the future. Gen 12 and Vulkan have been a long-term integration. They had a demo of this working, but there are still some stability concerns that they'd like to address. Gen 12 opens up hardware ray tracing, which requires an update to the lighting model. He said that it was still very early days, but he gave us a simplified description of the parts. He gave us a demo of ray tracing working in StarEngine. It looks good, and it gives them more options. They spoke about some situations as the HUD on a fighter or a cargo bay door opening, and the sun would blow it out and you wouldn't be able to see anything. Ray tracing addresses this, and they ended by saying that they have a bunch of work to do to keep the engine next gen. Chris was next with the goal of speaking about physics. Star Cloth is a new fabric sim. Wind is a factor, and the cloth can be layered without any visual artifacts. The soccer ball was getting dangerously close. Chris spoke about how they improved the physical mesh to represent cloth more faithfully. Star hair is also being worked on. Hair, gravity, wind, motion. All of these need to be simulated. Cloth tech does not actually help hair tech. They work differently. Rather than tessellation, they're looking at using the spline, the middle of the hair, rather than the surface. All of it sounds great and very technical. They have a plan for destruction. When you break a building, the systems within need to be accounted for. You take out a wall, the power stops, and other factors. This is not limited to buildings. This is all part of destruction propagation in general. It sounds like what was originally called the pipes system, but on roids. Breakable clusters help define how things are going to come apart. They did many demos, which all looked great. Audio was a pre-recorded panel, and we had some before and after examples, so they added a little bit more power and compression, and it does sound better, and it gave the gun a little bit more oomph. They spoke about new propagation, and it all sounds fantastic. They had demonstrated breathing and footsteps in the helmet, but the gun sounds and other external factors sounded muted to let you know that there was no atmosphere. Paul was next, and he would try to show off persistent entity streaming. He said perhaps video or slideshow like before, but no, a live demo would be better. Split screen so we could see the client, and then we could see the entity graph and the server renderer. The segment kind of bogged down the show because it's extremely technical, which is a shame because it's possibly the most important blocker and maybe even the most important thing that we're going to see throughout the whole 2 days. The demo map is broken down into zones. Each zone has its own inventory. Each inventory can be used by the players and the objects in real time. And of course, as assets were added and if an object was moved to a new zone, it migrated zones. The player does not see this. It's seamless. I might break down this segment in greater detail as its own video, and I agree that it's amazing to see server meshing in operation. Challenges are not done. All of this needs to be added, and he spoke about the server authority, which server has control. As the demo continued, we were shown how 2 players moved around the test area, and that was able to handshake and transition seamlessly. If a zone was left vacant, the server could technically be streamed out and then restored if needed, and all of this is meant to be automatic and scale to the needs. Chris closed out this first panel by saying that he was happy and proud of all the work from the team. Spooling servers up and down is brilliant, and Chris said that he cried the first time he saw the demo of this system working. All of this tech will either be in our hands the next patch or very soon. Jared did the outro, and that's it for panel 1. This was second panel, Fix It and Fly It. Here's what you need to know. The panel was hosted by Thorsten. We began with the disclaimer that the EUPU did all of the demo and it was, or could be seen as incomplete. They were showing gameplay and assets weren't like they should be. We don't care because all I want to see is gameplay. The resource network has been with us since the start. The pipes, or the systems that are inside the locations and the ships. Engineering gameplay is a subsystem of the resource network. Pipes are gone and we now have this, and this is intended to be throughout the entire game. The gameplay for the engineer is, as you would expect, you're Scotty from the Enterprise, or a member of Scotty's team. We have seen this in detail on past ISCs, so you can see this panel mostly as a refresher of that. You tune and maintain the systems as they degrade. You bypass and replace the systems that fail or have been damaged. We are repairing a ship by stealing healing goop from its hull and harvesting components from an abandoned Gladius. There was a Fury that landed. Players scanned it to see that there were some systems that were low on health. The component was removed, repaired, and then replaced. If that component was at 0, it would be junk and it would need to be simply replaced. There's no repair. In seconds, the Fury is back to 100% and flying. The game loop also manages the ship. You can order crew members to perform mundane tasks, or exciting tasks, depending on your perspective. They showed us item view. This is new on the new map system, an overlay over the new map that we saw on panel 4 that is uploaded for you already. You can see the stats, the load, the state of the items, and interact with all of it here on the map. Hovering over a component adds more data points for you to see, more details as you need them. They shoot out a relay and it changes on the map in real time, and it killed the power for that side of the ship. This triggered a low health warning for the power plant, and orders were issued to make repairs. As doors open and close, you can see this on the map. This can be used to track a hostile moving about the ship, and on the map you can also lock and block paths. Rooms display temperature, atmosphere, and other pieces of information that can be seen as critical. You can open component panels from the map and help a player know what needs to be addressed. They opened the main ramp on the map panel, and as expected, the room changed state to blend in with what was on the other side of the ramp, and the unprotected player died. As components are being damaged, players can repair in real time to mitigate and extend the life of the ship. There was a room that caught on fire during the battle. Players were diverted to deal with the fire. That fire also took out the power plant. It's up to you to perform triage to prevent catastrophic failures. Looking at the panel, it became clear that there is no solo gameplay in this game. Sure, they said that there was the idea that NPC crews can be paid, but come on, NPCs that we see are still standing on tables. I have little faith that the NPC will be able to do what a player can do, or with the speed that's needed. We then moved to the cosplay competition, and I'm going to say panel 2 was a super cool demo. That's it. This was the third panel according to the schedule, but it was actually the second one that was published. So it's called Talking Ship. Here's what you need to know. Panel was hosted by John. We began with the A1 commercial, and then we would get a deeper dive. The music was super crazy loud. John powered through anyways, like a trooper, and he showed us some bombs, some beds, the flight deck, the guns can retract, there's a turret. We were shown a cutaway, which wasn't on the commercial, and it was actually sick. And yes, it's still super impressive like it was when I saw it the first time. John had put up a timeline between 2023 and 2953. They spent about 10 minutes talking about the Mark II Zeus concept. It's flight ready in 1 year, and it's available right now in the store. More than a starter, and I'm going to do a special video just on it because it's a new concept. Immediately after that, they spoke about the Drake Cutter. It was said to be super popular and it sold very well. There's a new variant for the Cutter called the Scout. It is flight ready right now. Its single thrusters were replaced with a pair of thrusters. There's a radar on the top. Modifications below: the rear is larger to make room for a scanning station. They reorganized the habitation a bit to make space for those changes. They spoke about how the scanner was able to scan with very low power to avoid detection, and it's quite specialized. The panel continued. There are 200 vehicles at least that they're tracking right now, and they're adding more. The 2 ships they just announced are from that new team at Turbulent. We saw the Merchantman in engine again as a little commercial. It looks pretty. It's cavernous. It's still cavernous, missing textures. It's going to be a beast when it is finally flyable. They spoke about why they decided to push it back, and they all know that we want it and they want to do it correctly, and that's going to take time. They spoke about the Squadron 42 ships. The Icarus will release all variants to the PU alongside Squadron 42. The Javelin will not release to the PU with Squadron 42. The alien fighter ships are going to be updated in the PU alongside Squadron 42. Next month at IAE, we're going to hear about a new mining ship. They gave us a teaser video. I'm just going to play the video. It ended with the Polaris. The crowd went crazy. They've decided to build the RSI ships up because it has a very full style guide. The Polaris can be built as a family of ships at the same time, and this is supposed to speed everything up. So they're going to do the large RSI ships, and as I said, that's going to speed up production. There was no date given for all of this. They had a white box in-engine tour of the Polaris. It was flying around, blowing shit up. And again, it's all very exciting, but this ship's been around, so let's hope that this time when they say it's being worked on, it actually is going to get finished. In the demo, they had a Scorpius take off to defend the Polaris. Fun. Why not? That was the end of the ship show. Check it out. This was the 4th panel, Navigating the Universe. I don't actually know what happened to panel 2 from the schedule. Maybe CIG vented it out an airlock. Perhaps it was rescheduled. I'm going to track it down for you. But here's what you need to know about panel 4. The panel was hosted by Bone, Zane, Emily, and Simon. We began with a statement that space is big. A UI standard is preserved throughout the company. The new tools are developed, and that makes the UI elements, and this is done in one place to improve the results and improve the speed that they're made. Star Citizen has an above average level of information needed by the player, and Star Citizen's UI is broken down into layers. These are your basic player HUD, the visor HUD, the kiosks, the elevator panel, the readouts on weapons, Mobi-Glass, ship MFDs, and HUD. And they acknowledge that the player is blasted by all of these, and there's the possibility for overload, which they want to prevent. Simon said that the evolution has been with the game since the start. The evolving UI redesign is the point of this entire panel, a framework to account for the legacy but also be ready for the future. UI is a collaboration with the team that actually is building the game. A system needed to be brainstormed, and once that was identified, they put an illustration up to show the absolute worst level of clutter that a player might see with this new UI. You have been looking at the live demo. There's a compass at the top, and there are little marker lines in the player HUD which show where items will be seen. Bone then walked a little bit, and there was a new mission objective that popped up and a location objective. As the object went out of the player's view, it changed to an edge arrow like what we see in other games and in the space combat. The location had a threat of radiation, and the player status showed this at the lower left, like we've seen before. As the objective was completed and the pipe was fixed, the level of radiation fell to normal, and that changed on the HUD. The next objective pops up, which is to kill an enemy. The player emission indicator lets you know how easy you are to be detected. The player has a passive scanner that works on proximity. The closer you are, the better the data. But the player can also charge a pulse and get more at risk of detection. When the player takes out their weapon, the UI changes to show the new priority. These are your ammo, your grenades, and all of the things you're going to need for combat. Throwing a grenade has its own threat indicator. The NPCs were highlighted. All of this looks like what I've seen in Cyberpunk 2077, which is not a negative comment. If you're going to copy anything, that game is super futuristic and the HUD is worthy of duplication. The new Mobi-Glass is fantastic. It's fully redesigned and holographic. What they showed off was the UEE Mobi from Squadron. There's a PU version which is going to be a little bit more like a smartphone, and it'll have apps. We would then be shown what's coming next over the next couple patches and what they're working on for the future. The map is being completely overhauled. They did a demo where the player was able to walk up to a wall-mounted terminal. The player was able to navigate on the wall-mounted map system, but the most important update was the ability for the player to download that map and then move away from the wall. The onboard scanner will automatically add to the incomplete map. You move, it updates. You scan, it updates more or faster with better detail. This minimap is also part of the Mobiglass. On the larger map in the Mobiglass, you get even more detail. The scan indicates doors that are in a locked state. You can navigate between floors, and just like any other game, you can set a marker on the map, and then that becomes visible as a waypoint in your HUD. The markers are unlimited and they can carry metadata. They said that we will be able to sell markers on the market, and then of course the audience went nuts, because everyone likes selling stuff. The sale of the markers will have its own rating system like Yelp. The dumb waypoint isn't what we need, so you're also able to plot a path, and there it's represented in the player's UI on the map. AI pathfinding tech is used by the NPCs. That's the backend that drives the map feature. The path can be blocked by a locked door or a fire, which is handled by the system automatically and updates the path. They sent out a player ping to check the map, and then they navigated to the location with the map, but also the waypoint was visible in the player's view. They transitioned to a waiting ship and the map transitioned at the same time. Now on board the Carrack, the Mobiglass has a full representation of all of the floors of the ship. Highly detailed and seamless. I can see real usefulness for the engineer unfamiliar with all of the ship, needing to find a shield generator. They would open the map, set the waypoint, and then be running to the location to perform an emergency fix. The real party piece was next though. They simply pulled out of the ship map, and it revealed that it was actually the universe map, the star map. We then had more information about how this player map behaves as a star map. Your location is always represented in 3D on the map. They pulled even further back to show all of Crusader with a better label engine. No matter where the player is looking, the label will flip to be easy to read. Surface labels are based on the surface, so spinning a world will result in the far side labels being hidden to reduce clutter. Clicking on an object selects it, the player can zoom in and out freely. Cosmetic scaling is what they're calling something that mappers already have a name for. It's called cartographic license. They ended with the promise that there would be no need to zoom into an empty space. There is a hover over cursor that adds information as you drive the cursor over an object. There's a go to last marker button. There's a step back button, which will help us navigate by clicking microtech, and then we can pan to the destination. But the search dropdown can also be used if you're unfamiliar with the system. Scroll the list, click the feature, and we're transported to the location. We jumped all the way back to the technical deck of the Carrack where we started. They also showed off like a surface map of a planet, and that's it. This is Panel 5, Character Advancement. It was a little bit tardy, dramatically, and fashionably late. Here's what you need to know. We had Ian, Andre, and Sean. We began with the regular pleasantries. More work done by the character team. They spoke about how life in Stanton might dictate fashion. Earth, Terra, and Frontier all have their own fashion styles. These changed the look of what people wear. They played a demo. It was very pretty. They spoke about pouches and storage. They showed us modular storage that the players might be able to use, and this is a work in progress. The point was more customization. They're working on some extreme weather outfits. They're working on better fidelity, and they demoed visual wear between 0 and 100%. The interior of a mask or helmet needs to be brought up to a gold pass so that they can begin working on animating the add or remove headgear. We were told about the style guides for various factions. Rough and Ready is a new gang. Tattoos is how they denote their rank. They're about pyro. The rank tattoos are progressive, and as a player, you'll be able to work for a rank and then apply these tattoos to your toon. Let's see how that works out. Headhunters are another new gang that is in production. They demoed their aesthetic. The Dusters are what we saw years ago in that Worm demo, right? These are criminals in the desert. They're basically a copy of the Tusken Raiders from Star Wars. Sorry for the visual. Dusters with more armor are higher in rank, and this is similar to what we saw in Mad Max movie with that Charlize What's-Her-Face. The low-rank Dusters have leather and minimal spots to put things, but as you go up in Duster rank, you end up with more slots, unlocking more slots to put stuff, so you can be higher in rank. If you are fully kitted up in top armor, you're going to have difficulty piloting a ship because of reduced visibility and slower input reaction. We move to talking about becoming dirty. If you're dirty, you're going to look dirty, and others are going to comment and make fun of you. If you're dirty, you can become sick more easily, and you can reset your dirtiness with a shower. They did another demo. It looked lovely. Sean was on deck. We talked about Starcloth again. It's unified between Squadron and the PU. We were shown a demo. It looked lovely. They explained the difference between cage and the mesh for Starcloth. Mass, collision, and movement are all controlled. Flexing, bending, and meshing are all controlled. clipping is prevented. We were shown a demo, it looked lovely. Andre was next about star hair. We did see star hair yesterday, but they went into more detail. He said it was difficult to model hair. Hair is broken down into texture, placement, and shader. Space Hair is able to split these and render them with high fidelity. They spoke about how the hair tips are important to achieve the good results. Placement is helped with a library of hair asset. He spoke about hair dye. Dye color can be chosen, but also the length of the dye can be applied. We were shown a demo. It looked lovely. He spoke about how they're working to add more hairstyles that are less military focused, and then again we were shown a demo and it looked lovely. He said that the current push is to replace the stuff that we have. The question when was tabled. We were shown another demo, and apparently there will be a major hair update by the end of 2023. They only confirmed hair, not all of the other stuff. The panel ended with a final panel for DNA. They scanned 60 more heads to add to the 18 that we were using. Tone, complexion, makeup, eyes, these are all new. They spoke about Clear Angle Studios in the UK, and they're using a device called Dorothy to scan people in seconds. The result is more heads scanned quicker for us. And all of this is being done for Squadron, but it'll eventually make its way into the PU. We had a live demo of Biot Corp from Sean Tracy. It didn't crash and it looked lovely. Along with mixing DNAs, Sean also had access to sculpting. You can grab a node and pull it wherever you want. Infinite possibilities, unlimited options. Skin tone is a selection from a huge range of color, and you have the choice of textures from a library, all on the same page. You have freckles and sunspots, you have eyes, which can be any color in RGB. Makeup can be added to whatever you want. Next was hair selections, a library of styles to choose from, a choice of beards to choose from, a choice of eyebrows to choose from. You can choose the base color and then dye it like they were talking about. The tips will blend and you'll get the look that you want. Sean made another tune, and with this, Sean was able to show eyeliner, eyeshadow, lip color, and lip liner. Sean confirmed that bearded women and bearded men, it's all up to you. And in review, you click review and commit your tune, and then you start to play. And I want to say that people want, let me rephrase that. People need a way to save all of the hours that they invest building their tune. Save, and it's part of your account, and you can recall it and start from there. That's what we really need. This was the 6th panel, Life in First Person. Here's what you need to know. It's a big one. The panel was hosted by Jens. We began with the new EVA system built from the ground up. He spoke about new transitions to and from 0G, and as you approach the surface, your hands will automatically be extended to stop your movement. Many surfaces will be receiving grip aids in locomotion. While prone, you'll be able to rotate and the animations will just work. You may crawl in and through smaller locations, and if gravity were to be turned off, the player would simply transition in this flat state. Ladders are more dynamic because you're now able to look around. Slung or unslung weapons will not alter your character movement speed. They're working to incorporate slide, and this will trade a little bit of stamina for a lower silhouette. While in this state, you're also able to aim down sights and quickly recover to a sprint. They're adding the risk of radiation. You can see radiation represented in the player visor, but depending on the suit and the objects blocking it, you may be fine, but once the suit deteriorates, you start to take damage. Interaction with objects is improved. Augmented reality cues are visible, and these are more visible after you scan ping. These prompts are the keybind action, and you may use it immediately without needing to hold F. Default action items are going to change based on the situation and the item, but you're also able to change these. Being able to interact with the objects also lets the player change the situation. For example, if you come up to a switch, you're not just F to push. You can select and the animation is quick, but it scales to the types needed. If it's a big button, your hand might palm slam it. If it's a small button, your finger will touch it with a little bit more precision. Usables such as valves, levers, and components also receive these ARQs. All of these were placed into a demo where the player needs to manually close a valve to navigate the level. The manual door override lever is a little QuickTime event rather than just F to open. You actually have to press in a sequence to get it to work. Shop terminals are getting a buff. The new focused mode will lock to the screen, allowing the user to use it easily, but not taking you out of the immersion. Looting is a subset of the inventory system that's designed to let you quickly grab from the loot pile what you want. These are driven by quick equip, quick grab, and quick drop. You can consolidate ammo and drop empty mags. Stealth is getting an upgrade. Player takedowns are going to be part of player progression, so it's a mini game that becomes easier the more you do it. Armed, unarmed, with trinkets, all of these animations will not always be the same for the same situation. They're working on locations to stuff a body or a restrained detainee. Scanning with FPS ping provides a very cool artificial reality layer that will look beyond solid objects and cover. Visual wear will be based on weapon use, but more wear will increase the risk of a misfire and inaccuracy. A weapon in misfire will put a visual indicator of R to repair, which will be a tap rack, or if it's very bad, remove the mag, dislodge the obstruction, replace the mag, and then rack the action. You can also simply choose to change the weapon to address the misfire later. You can clean and maintain the weapon to mitigate all of these risks. They demoed a polish on recoil, aim down sights, and the sights themselves. All of this is done to keep pace with the current FPS shooters that are on the market. Some pistols are automatic, Volt weapons can overheat. The visor has a middle point hipfire cursor, an aiming mark. The TTK is being adjusted, and they covered the scope improvements that were spoken about on day one again. We got a breakdown of the traits that the NPC are going to use in combat. This is much more granular than what we were shown in the past. The dismounted NPC knows exactly what weapon they're carrying between launchers, LMGs, SMGs, and they know exactly how to use them. NPCs are coded to be aggressive or cautious. Some NPCs might have an itchy trigger finger, some might prefer cover, some might charge at you. NPCs are aware of their environment and will avoid threats such as open ground or fire. We were shown a demo, that's it. This was the 7th panel, Taking Flight. Here's what you need to know. Panel was hosted by Yogi. We began with Yogi telling us that he likes spaceflight, and he said that the build was 12 hours old, so there might be bugs. Brent would be flying. There would be a new relaxed pose when you enter the ship with lowered hands so you can push all the buttons in pre-flight. They called up a demo to demonstrate the new entry animations. They pushed all the buttons, and then flight ready, the hand was automatically moved to the flight grip. They began with an overview of the less cluttered UI in the Gladius that we were shown yesterday. Changing to scan mode moves all of the HUDs and MFDs to views that are related to scanning. Changing navigation mode moves all of the HUDs and MFDs to views that are related to navigation or flying. The different ship companies have different looking elements that's being preserved. There are holograms around the MFDs that are portrayed in augmented reality. Everything was remade from nothing. You can still hold F and interact. Hovering over elements with the cursor provides more info, and clicking provides more options. The basic screens can be modified to taste, and this should remain persistent with your ship. He spoke about some of the unique screens that are available, but they're still being developed. We went for a flight. They spoke about player actor and the effects of G-forces on the body. Your head tilts more, and the blackout effect is quite present. In nav mode, we see the switch in HUD, and they spoke a little bit more about master modes. They showed off the new quantum effect when they jumped to the beacon, but the ship actually failed the jump because the procedure wasn't done properly. Yogi said that cheap or mismatched quantum drives would kick out, so it makes sense to choose properly and keep your gear maintained. Quantum boosting is used to make a quick jump around, and this can be done as a blind boost. Diego was next to talk about AI, ship AI specifically. Improvements are being made to make the AI better. They set about making the tech work better with thousands of test hours, and they started to code a prototype. It was really good. Yogi said it was too good, so they needed to introduce some states that the AI might transition through, interception, several types of combat, and chasing. It looked as if during the demo that friendly NPCs could be asked to change states to assist the player. This might be the beginning of AI wingmen. Yogi was planning to bring the hit scan weapons back, but they would be balanced to equal and preserve the meta. Yogi spoke about burst weapons as a possibility. Projectile ranges are now short to keep combat close, but projectile ranges will be extended and balanced by spread. The pips will change from red to green when the computer feels that the majority of the rounds will land based on the target size. You can still fire when it's red, but you're just going to be chucking bullets everywhere. The aiming system is getting a big overhaul. Pips will be more accurate. They went into a quick demo of something that they've been working on, which will help a small ship or a fleet of small ships take on a larger ship like a hammerhead. Combined effort by painting a part of the ship. This made short work of individual turrets, and the hammerhead was forced to leave the area. We were shown some atmospheric flight, a transition from winged flight to hover. The ship dislikes hover, and that eventually created a poor reaction. The pilot needed to fly forward to recover from that. They showed off landing in atmosphere. You need to brake to slow down to achieve and maintain the hover. Deploying the landing gear activates precision mode, which helped a lot. Landed, powering down returns the character to the relaxed mode. Canopy opens and the character was able to exit onto the ground. That's it, but this is panel 8, Living on the Edge. Here's what you need to know. This is all about the outposts and places that we can go, and it began with an overview of the needs. The outposts are not only pretty, but they also should satisfy the pathing needed to be a good FPS level. Social areas need to convert quickly for a fight. They choose to add landmarks to each outpost to make it easy to maintain your bearing. And diversity. The panel used all of the buzzwords that you would normally expect. Alleys, covered approaches, every single buzzword they could put in there. They spoke about interacting with the environment, opening or locking doors, turning on and off the lights. All of these can change the map. They can all change the environment. The resource network system is also here with the ability to change the life support, activate security systems, and the defense systems. As you go about your business, you can pick up security tokens from the NPCs in the area, and that might give you advantage. That will open locked items. Reputation will matter. You may be able to walk in like you belong, and you might find yourself in an area that you simply don't feel welcomed. You will still have access to the area, but to get to the gang floor, you're going to need the reputation, and there are things there, such as missions and objects, that are not available elsewhere. There are game implications to the locations. Eddie wanted to tell us about the modules. They are themed heavily to offer a unique flavor for each place. Sandbox 1 team had worked for the past 6 months to flesh out all of the upgrades to the outposts. In 2021, they showed us a library of assets, and this is greatly expanded, and they wanted to do this so that we won't feel like we've been to places before. They wanted that diversity that I spoke about earlier. More types of specialized parts will let the developers build a tailored location that has a purpose. These places all offer unique gameplay potential. The atmosphere and depth achieved in these locations are all top shelf, and I also noticed that whether it was day or night, it had a completely different theme or vibe. It's nutty to think about a normal game with a normal size map and then expand that to the universe. They spoke about smaller outposts. These also have their own theme. They have lootables such as food, drink, and support items. Outlaw locations might work better for combat because it makes sense that they would be worried about the threat, so they're more defensible. They have obstacles. Nick was here to speak about the newest settlements that we might get soon. More locations, more box missions. Locations can be interconnected with tunnels. They spoke about some modifications and improvements to the orbiting stations. They all offer new ways of getting in and out, such as new docking ports, smaller access ports, landing ports. Just like elsewhere, there are locations on the stations that require correct reputation. No rep, no access, and you miss out on what that place may have to offer. I have nothing more to add here. It's all just a super polished demo, very beautiful. All the videos, I'm just going to let them run out for you to see. That's it. Here's what you need to know. The first part of the panel was hosted by Todd Pappy. We began with the most important feature set, and this is most things leading up to base building. I do have the raw demo linked up as its own video. The distribution center is new, they're big, and they are focused on gameplay opportunities. Many landing pads and a road network. As I said, they're big. Each of these will be owned by a faction. The factions are names that you know, like the UEE and Grey Cat. If it's owned by the UEE, it's going to be military focused, and illegal activity will be dealt with quickly. If you plan to hack or kill, you're going to have a harder time. If it's Grey Cat, this will be focused on mining and industry, and the security might be seen as lighter. They had a demo to watch. It looked lovely. The corporate hub is designed to be a full service area. The administrative area is the upper part, and it's accessible by elevators, but you may also land smaller ships on the platform for smaller stays. You have the lobby, there's a reception desk, and you will need to check in. Missions are going to start and stop here, and those will boost your basic reputation. Once you gain more rep, you gain access to the offices, where you will see even more mission givers. And the offices are built to be expandable. They had a demo to watch, it looked lovely. The space below the offices are able to support gameplay that's being called a raid, meant for teams, and you're going to breach the interior structure. Different types of places have unique goals. They had an assault force land, breach, and clear the structure. They assaulted the objective, which was a cache of supplies. The supplies were loaded onto a skid and then taken back to the craft, all while defending from the defenses. High risk reward. They had a demo to watch. It was lovely. Some paths are blocked or might be opened up quickly with a tractor beam puzzle. It's up to you to figure out these, and it's not limited to boxes. They're exploring all things that will add to the experience. Nick was next with a segment on cargo and freight. Cargo is going to be a big part of the game, and many backers are actually only interested in cargo and hauling, which is good. Shout out to GHG. They're adding a guild that you can work for, and this builds up your reputation like before, elsewhere in the game. The better your rating with the guild is, the better and more complex your cargo hauling jobs might be. Nick spoke about the Xeno Threat cargo component as a baseline, but they want to expand upon this. They have new containers that will require new gameplay and new creativity. You won't be able to just pick up anything because there are some that require special consideration. Security, temperature, radioactivity, possibly unstable, possibly volatile, and more. Hauling will have special perks and rewards such as in-game merch and skins. They showed off the cargo elevators and some updated tractor gameplay. The cargo elevators are massive. They showed it being able to load tanks and buggies, and this turns your hangar into a staging room to load and prepare for missions. You're home away from home for now, and that's going to lead into the next one. As I said, part 2 of panel 9, Destination Adventure, Base Building. Here's what you need to know. This panel was also hosted by Todd Pappy. Some of my favorite subjects are hosted by Todd. We would hear about base building, base owning, land, and other topics within this sphere. We need a reason to claim land. Perhaps you need a place to hide your stuff, perhaps the org needs a trade hub, or perhaps a staging location. And I'll tell you, I'm excited for this. This is like 90% of what I did in Fallout 4. Using a land claim might come with some taxes and fees, which may be higher if you're in a more secure location. You fail to pay the taxes, and your base might lose its security and probably won't be there when you return. You will be able to boost the defenses of your base. High sec, low sec, no sec. These will all have the expected risk reward. They say that the bases will be open from solo all the way to org. They showed off 4 sizes of vehicles that will help you build bases. You have small assets from small vehicles. There was a 8-wheeled medium-sized base building vehicle. Never seen it before, probably a spoiler, but it's good. It's good that they're thinking about the little guy. They showed off the Galaxy White Box, and then the Pioneer was obviously able to make the extra large assets, but it also serves as a mobile base. On an aside, there is now a new listing in the store for a 4th module type for the Galaxy, and this is obviously some kind of base building module. I can see that ship going up. They said we might also be able to build bases in space. You drop the claim, and a drone will survey the area and it'll tell you how much the taxes are going to be. Once the claim is made, you can map out the plan and it'll provide a rundown of what quantity of resources are needed. Built buildings will come empty and ready to be furnished. Those furnishings can come from anywhere. You have blueprints and resources. Those will produce an asset, and it's up to you to finish with the furnishings. Garages, elevator, landing pads, storefronts. Those are one type. Extractors can make a profit, but they are not automated, and those are your mining lasers, your drills, your pumps, and the water collection. They listed a set of power plant types from geothermal, solar, wind, fusion, and battery banks. And within producers, these would take the raw and make product for sale, which are your fabricators, hydroponics, refineries, and pharmaceuticals. In the defense categories, you have shields, anti-personnel, and anti-ship turrets. All of this would begin work on Q1 2024. And that's it.